Hello folks, Wheels of Mercury here, and I am presenting to you a thing that I have not done in a very long time. An album review. I had stopped doing dedicated review videos for albums a while back. In fact, my last review of a full-length album was back in 2020 when I reviewed Asking Alexandria's Like a House on Fire. After that, I swore off album reviews and numerical scores, partially because of music being quite a hard thing to attach a number to. Art is pretty much a subjective thing, and that's for certain. But I'm making this video an exception, for this is a pretty big and momentous occasion. A very popular band from my hometown of St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, has just released their brand new studio album, their first in 13 years, and that band is the platinum and gold certified, albeit only in Canada anyway, post-hardcore titans Alexisonfire. So what led the boys from St. Catharines to this point? Well, we have to rewind all the way back to the year of 2001. The band was formed out of the dissolution of three bands. Hamilton, Ontario-born guitarist and backup vocalist Wade McNeil and bassist Chris Steele came from a punk band named Plan 9. Grimsby-born and raised house vocalist George Pettit came from playing guitar in a local Niagara metal band called Condemning Salem, and clean singer and rhythm guitarist Dallas Green, the most well-known member of Alexisonfire by far, came from a band called Hurricane Blue. A little side note here. For those who know of the powerful vocals of Dallas Green can do, Hurricane Blue is a great band to check out the origins of that voice. The music is on the side of Deftones as rock, and it's quite good music to listen to. I'll put a playlist in the description down below if you can check out Hurricane Blue. But back to Alexisonfire. The name of the band came from the American adult film actress Alexisonfire. She actually wanted to sue the band when they first started putting themselves out there on the internet. But no domain names existed with the name Alexisonfire on it. So the case was quickly dropped and they were allowed to use the name. And so, with the addition of drummer Jesse Angelevic, Alexisonfire was officially formed. In early 2002, they released a demo called the Math Sheet Demo because the CD was literally wrapped in Jesse's math homework. Kind of a rebellious strategy, but it worked as it caught the attention of Distort Entertainment, who were just starting up at the time. Fast forward to Halloween of 2002, and Alexisonfire had their debut record out. A self-titled one, to be exact. This record showed the guys at their most raw and unrefined. In those days, George Pettit took the center stage vocally, while Dallas was confined to just a backup voice. Plus, they were more indebted to the sounds of Midwestern emo bands and math rock. But they already had the energy to take on the world, even back then. The record's popularity spread through word of mouth, and they would eventually get their first music video for the single Pulmonary Archery, featured on Much Music, all across Canada. After touring Canada with national favorites Billy Talent and Death from Above throughout 2003, and later supporting American underground hardcore band Spitalfield and tracks across the U.S., Alexisonfire would settle down in the studio and record their follow-up. That record would end up becoming known as Watch Out and was released in June of 2004. From this record onwards, we would start to see a shift in the sing/screen dynamics of Dallas and George. It was clear that people weren't really fans of the band, and some fans as well were wondering, wait a minute, who is this guy singing behind the screamer? I need to hear more of his voice. Can we hear more of him, please? And they would get their wish, both on this record and on a little side project Dallas would start releasing albums from the following year that I'll get to in a moment. The hooks were bigger on Watch Out the band were more focused, and Dallas would get its time to shine in songs like Happiness by the Kilowatt and Sidewalked When She Walked. This album also served as the full-length debut of their now famous Heart Skull logo, appearing in blue beside the band name. Things were looking up and up for the boys from St. Catharines. They toured across Canada and the U.S. with some of the biggest names in post-hardcore and emo at the time, like Silverstein, Hawthorne Heights, and Rise Against. But in the summer of 2005, Jesse Angelic left the band and was replaced by Jordan Hastings, who had been playing in bands around Burlington, Ontario, before joining Alexisonfire. Speaking of Jesse, there is an interesting interview done back in 2020 by his current Neighbors podcast channel called Decast that I will link down below in the description. It's pretty cool. We'll go through what it was like for Jesse to play on their first couple albums and other stuff too. Check it out if you're interested. So, you know that little Dallas Green side project I mentioned earlier? Well, the debut from that project, named City in Color, came out in November of 2005 under the name of Sometime. This acoustic and folk-tinged alternative project started off as songs that Dallas would write as far back as age 14, and he would put them on the internet. Eventually, this project would pretty much eclipse Alexisonfire in popularity. But we're not quite there yet, because on August 22nd, 2006, after sessions at Metalworks Studios in Mississauga, Ontario, Alexisonfire released their third studio album, Crisis. This is my favorite Alexisonfire album, and the album that shot him to national fame in Canada. The single, This Could Be Anywhere in the World, was a major Canada-wide hit, and it's still considered their signature song to this day. Looking back on the album nowadays, it had to be said that it was a gateway for lots of people into post-hardcore and other kinds of related genres, especially here where I live in Southern Ontario and in the Niagara region. I have had friends of mine say that this was the album that got them into harder music. And I think it was partially the same thing for me too. All the songs in the album are great. Like Mailbox Person, You Burn First, Boiled Frogs. I remember a friend of mine from high school saying that Boiled Frogs was like the St. Catharines anthem. I don't really know why he would say that, but I feel like I should bring that up for a bunch of trivia. I don't know. I don't know why my friend said that. Anyways, by 2008, the members were sort of drifting apart, especially Dallas Green, with his project City in Color getting bigger and bigger all the time. It's clear that his heart lay somewhere outside of Alexisonfire, and that would greatly influence the sound of their next album. That album would come out in 2009 through Dino Records by the name Old Crows, Young Cardinals. I remember the mixed reception that this album got at the time from some fans. Some hated the fact that Dallas was basically stealing the spotlight from George Pettit, and that George's vocals were restrained to a gruff, almost Pantera-esque singing voice. People online were calling it Taylor Swift core and all sorts of silly nonsense rotating around a classic old drain of elitism. Looking back on it, I think that this album has actually aged very, very well. It contains some of Dallas Green's best choruses up until that point in tracks like Young Cardinals and Emerald Street. Born and Raised in particular is very, very good. It really showed how much more improved his voice had become up until that point from spending time in City in Color. And George still goes hard on a few tracks, so it's not like he's fully restrained across the whole thing. It's overall tight, well-produced effort, but should be reevaluated by many who wrote it off as soft back in the day. Unfortunately, that lukewarm reception and tensions between the band members started to sort of form as the 2010s began, even as they released an EP called Dog's Blood right at the start of that decade. City and Color was really starting to take off for Dallas Green, to the point where that stuff became much more well-known outside of Canada than the band he rose up to fame in. They called it quits in 2011 and played a farewell tour stretching into 2012, ending in a concert on December 30th, 2012 at Hamilton, Ontario's Cop Coliseum. I was at that show, and it seemed like there was some sort of standoffishness between Dallas and the rest of the guys that was unresolved at the time. Truly seemed like this was it for Alexisonfire, that they were spent and Dallas was going to go on his own and do his City and Color stuff to more fame and acclaim. During the early 2010s, they would play a few shows here and there, but nothing would come up of a reunion until 2015. But even then, there wasn't any hope of them releasing any new material until 2019. Between 2019 and 2020, they released 3 singles: Familiar Drugs, Complicit, and Season of the Flood, none of which are on the new album, which is just a wow because, in my honest opinion, those songs are good, but not great. And now that we are up to speed on the history of Alexisonfire, what do I personally think of Otherness, the new studio album from the Niagara region's most successful post-hardcore band of all time? Well, if there's one observance I can start off with Otherness, is that it's a very art rock and desert rock influenced album. You can practically really hear the influence of Caius's Welcome to Sky Valley, Thrice's later material, and even 1990's Queens of the Stone Age. No more is it evident than in tracks like Sweet Dreams of Otherness and the atmosphere cut Sans Soleil, the latter of which has quite a beautiful performance from Dallas and guitarist Wade McNeil harmonizing with each other. And also, they harmonize again with George on the very beginning of the 6-minute belter Dark Night of the Soul, which is my favorite song on the record. Holy crap. It is amazing. Absolutely stellar. And the guitar solo by Wade McNeil is just awesome. I have seen a few fans online talking about Blue Spade, and that song is growing on me. It hasn't yet hit with me yet, but I can see why people love it. Then there's the slow burner Mistaken Information, which actually kind of is like the album's equivalent to Burials off of Old Crow's Young Cardinals, or Sidewalk When She Walks from Watch Out, updated with a little bit of flair from their touring pedal steel player and fellow City and Color member Matt Kelly. It's Matt Kelly who also does the keyboard intro to the following track, Survivor's Guilt. The final 2 tracks are the second pre-release single, Reverse the Curse, and the 8-minute epic World Stop Turning. I have seen a comment on the Rate Your Music comment box compared the latter to William Duvall's era of Alice in Chains, and I cannot disagree with that. In fact, Dallas Green would probably take that as a major compliment, considering he is quite an outspoken and big fan of that band. So, for my first numerical rating since 2020, Alexisonfire's Otherness gets a highly subjective 3.5 out of 5. I quite enjoyed this album. All of the songs were pretty much enjoyable to me, and it was a good comeback for the Niagara region's biggest post-hardcore band. Welcome back, guys! You did great, at least in my humble opinion. Please feel free to say what you guys thought of Otherness down in the comments. And remember, just take my score with a grain of salt, alright? There's no need to get upset over numbers. In celebration of this album release, Alexisonfire and City and Color are going to host a 4-day headlining concert festival at Montebello Park in downtown St. Catharines called the Born and Raised Concert Series, right in my freaking neck of the woods. This is going to be running on Canada Day weekend from Thursday, June 30th to Sunday, July 3rd. City and Color will headline the Thursday and Friday dates, and Alexisonfire will host the Saturday and Sunday dates, respectively. Performing alongside them will be a whole host of Canadian rock luminaries, both young and old, from Pup to Sam Roberts Band to Manine to Broken Social Scene. There's even a very special guest on the Saturday date in Mississauga, Ontario's own Billy Talent. That is the day I will be at. It has been almost 11 years since I've seen Billy Talent last. And let me tell you, the last time I saw Billy Talent, it was not pretty. My experience of seeing Billy Talent the last time was almost ruined by intoxicated Slayer fans. Yeah, let's just leave it at that. Alright, that does it, my friends, for my first review of 2022 for Alexisonfire's new album. If you like what I do, click the like button and subscribe, and also ring the bell for notifications. Rock on, guys, and I will see you at Born and Raised Fest.